Hey guys, how you doing? Hopefully you're doing okay. I'm going to read through the majority of this article here. There's a link in the description. I'm going to provide a trigger warning. This is in regards to a very disgusting case, the death of a 4-month-old girl at the hands of the scumbag father. This happened a while back, September 2018. The reason why we're going over this is because he has been sentenced. The father has been sentenced to spend nearly 21 years in prison. So are we happy with 21 years in prison for killing a baby girl? No, I'm not. But we're going to have a look through the details. In any case, a Kansas man has been sentenced to spend nearly 21 years in prison over the 2018 death of his infant baby girl. It's this scumbag that you see in front of you, Andrew Wayne Franklin, 36 years of age. He pleaded no contest in April of this year to a count of second-degree reckless murder and a single count of child abuse in exchange for a potentially reduced sentence and 2 of the additional charges against him being dropped. So he took a plea deal. So these child murderers, baby murderers, if they play ball with the prosecution, if they take a plea deal, they get these sentences, which I'm going to say are way too light. I will say 21 years is still a long time. Sure, it's not as disgusting as 8.5 years, which is, I believe, if I'm right, if my memory serves me correct, I believe Star Hobson's mother was initially given a sentence of 8.5 years, I believe. If you're not aware of the Star Hobson case, do look into it. I do have one video in regards to Star Hobson. I ought to have made more, but her case is particularly harrowing, so I chose not to. Yeah, so 21 years, it isn't a short amount of time, but this is in regards to the murder, the horrific, cruel and brutal murder of a 4-month-old child, this scumbag's own daughter, and they only get 21 years. I don't know, I'm just not happy with it. I mean, I do understand the benefits of plea deals. It guarantees a conviction, it guarantees a sentence, and it also reduces the need to have a trial. And in so doing, it reduces the cost to the taxpayer. So there are reasons as to why plea deals exist. I get that. But too often I'm disappointed by them. Too often it seems too much of a softening of the sentence, which to me, and I think a lot of you guys are going to disagree, perhaps not all, but that's not good enough to allow these child murderers, these baby murderers, too light of a sentence. They do not deserve it. And then more to the point, the victims, they don't deserve it. You know, it shows a certain lack of respect to the victims in my mind, when people are given too light of a sentence. It also sends a bad message to the community, to the wider society. It says, hey, look, killing children's pretty bad, but, you know, it's not that bad. You know, we're going to give this guy only 21 years. You know, he's not the worst of the worst. Yes, he fucking is. He's a fucking scumbag, child murderer. He brutally killed his own 4-month-old daughter. Yes, he is the worst of the worst. And with that, he deserves the worst possible sentence, the longest possible sentence. Again, my preference, take their lives away from them, death penalty, no chance of appeals, do it straight after the trial, take them to the back of the corner, back of the sheds, insert 2 doses of lead, leave them to it, chuck them in a pit, pour some concrete over it, done. Now I know my approach isn't feasible in this day and age. Everyone has got to respect everyone else's rights all the time. We've got to respect the prisoner's rights, the convict's rights. I mean, that to me doesn't make any sense. This scumbag didn't respect the rights of his 4-month-old daughter. Why the fuck should society respect any of his rights? Fuck him. He's a stain on humanity. Remove the stain. I mean, the modern world nowadays, in the West at least, there's just too much weakness. Everyone's too scared to act in a determined fashion. And it's a load of bullshit, if you ask me. So we're going to read through some of the further details, and it is going to detail the injuries suffered by baby Brexley Grace Franklin. Again, this happened in September 2018. So do brace yourself. I'm putting in a trigger warning at this point. There's going to be some horrific details. I want to go over this, though, because I feel it is important to have an understanding of what happens in these cases. Like, what do these motherfuckers do? And having gone over a lot of cases like this, I'm seeing a lot of reoccurrence. I mean, in this case, it's shaking. And we've seen this before, and it causes all kinds of injuries. I think we need to have an awareness of it. And certainly, I would say younger parents, new parents, they need to be made aware of this. I mean, I can only think, maybe I'm an idiot here, but I can only think that some parents don't realize the damage that they're doing. I can only think that. Anyway, let's have a look. The incident or incidents that took the life of 4-month-old Brexley Grace Franklin occurred in September 2018. She died early that same month after spending 5 days in the hospital. The investigation began when authorities responded to an apartment complex where emergency services reported the infant having a seizure. Authorities quickly ascertained that the child suffered from internal injuries. Those injuries would eventually lead to her father being charged and arrested the next month, October 2018. After being admitted in critical condition, doctors determined that young Brexley Grace Franklin had a skull fracture, retinal hemorrhages, and bruises on her jawline. All of these injuries are consistent with abuse. The father was the only person that had Brexley in her care at the time of the seizure. Here's a quote from the director of the Division of Child Abuse and Neglect. The specific pattern of intracranial hemorrhage, retinal hemorrhage, and brain swelling are characteristic of violent infant shaking and or a forceful rotational slam of the infant's head onto a surface. Sadly, these injuries are not survivable. So the scumbag father either violently shook his daughter to death, or potentially he slammed the 4-month-old's head onto a hard surface. I mean, these are just really sick individuals. Investigators believe the defendant cruelly beat and or shook young Brexley, causing irreparable injuries that ultimately caused her death. The girl's father was initially charged with 2 counts of child abuse and 1 count of murder in the first degree. His bond was set at $250,000 when he was originally arrested in October 2018. He has now been sentenced to 250 months in prison, so 21 years. So there we go. So it's an absolutely tragic situation. This scumbag, yet again, a parent, a father in this case, killed his own child, an infant 4 months of age. Either he shook her to death violently, or, and forgive me for stating this, I mean, it's so gruesome, or he slammed the baby's head against a hard surface. I mean, either caused these injuries, which are unsurvivable. He gets 21 years in jail after the courts accepted a plea deal. I mean, there's that. I'm not happy with it. I think it's very disappointing. It's 21 years. I mean, again, I'm repeating myself at this point. It could have been worse, I guess, but it's still not good enough. Boris Johnson in the United Kingdom, he's praised a proposed law that all child murderers automatically get life in prison. And in England, life in prison means fuck all, basically. I mean, life in prison means, oh yeah, life in prison, but you might get out after a few years, once you hit parole. So life doesn't mean life in England. But Boris Johnson has supported that proposed law, hasn't gone through. Will it ever go through? I mean, that was talked about a long time ago now, so probably not. Boris Johnson, if anything's on his way out. I don't want to change the subject overly. But I don't know. I'm not happy with this, Kansas. I understand going for a plea deal, but 21 years is just not enough. So let's fucking hope this guy has no access to parole. And let's hope that he gets the opportunity to spend time in general population on a regular basis. And let's hope that the other inmates have the opportunity to have a nice little chat with him. A nice little chat talking about how he violently shook his 4-month-old daughter to death and or hit young Brexley's head onto a hard surface and resulting in her death. Let's hope that the inmates have an opportunity, or many opportunities, to have a nice little chat with this guy about that, so that they can express their feelings. Maybe they're not too happy about that situation. Maybe they're a little bit upset about that situation. And maybe the other inmates can have the opportunity to express exactly and precisely how upset they are with this scumbag's murderous actions. I'm going to wrap things up here, guys. If you do appreciate this, if you see value in the channel, in the coverage of this topic and others like it, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video. I'm adding a donation link. Let's see how that goes. But thank you in any case. And guys, take care.